that money wasn't what made you rich.
That's right.
Wealth, affluence, success, they did. And the byproduct of those things was the checkbook.
I know you and I have that hot button. I mean, you know, I'm sure you know a little bit about my backstory coming from homelessness to where I'm at, right? So, you know, I've been gritty. I've had no choice. I even got up this morning. People on my team was like, dude, you got to get up and like do a story. I'm like, what's a story? Like, whatever. So, I mean, what do you see as the defining difference between a real entrepreneur and, you know, if someone's posing like one?
Ignorance. For a start, you never offered me these questions.
No.
So anyone out there, I don't want them thinking, oh my God, he answered that so quick because he was prepared. No, it was just such an easy question. You see, the trouble is, at the moment, being an entrepreneur, it looks sexy. It looks cool. It also doesn't carry an accreditation or a certificate. So anyone could wake up in the morning and go, well, what do you do? Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. You know, if you're a bricklayer, you've got to prove it. But if you're an entrepreneur, you can get away for 5 seconds just telling a good story. But the difference is entrepreneurs, they don't really give a shit about that. They are ignorant to the problems that we have. They are ignorant to mistakes. They are ignorant to the crisis. You made a comment about COVID and I said it was great. Entrepreneurs react to any environment to see how it can benefit them.
True.
The entrepreneurs are the ones that when it doesn't go their way, like to sit back, cry in their hands and throw a pity party. So I think that's the big deciding factor, that entrepreneurs are ignorant to the pain that we're in because they develop it to benefit them.
Well, yeah, because if you're a real entrepreneur, you have no choice if you're going to be successful to keep going. That's it.
You have no choice.
I mean, there's no choice.
There's no alternative.
Well, speaking of that, you know, as I've been studying your content and learning more about you and everything, dude, first of all, I think we're brothers from another mother. It's not just the haircut, right?
Obviously.
But on top of that, you know, I stumbled my way. I say stumble's a loose word, but I stumbled my way into a certain level of kind of how I got to where I'm at. You know, I started in the construction industry carrying studs, started building houses, started leading crews at 16 and so on and so forth. And then when all else failed, I went back to construction and that's where I kind of got going, right? Well, then I had a mentor change my life, all that good stuff, you know, but what I love most about your story is you kind of did the same thing. Like you just decided, look, there's more to life than what I'm doing. And you kind of got started. How did you even get started in like the luxury concierge service? I mean, you invented an industry.
I did. I absolutely did. He says arrogantly. The word that I want to pull out of your statement there is important for everyone to be listening to. You said about you stumbled, okay? You did. And I don't want to take it away from you because we all stumbled. But we continued with the momentum. We realized that we were not qualified to do something. We were not good at something. But if we stopped, we would be even worse. Yeah. There's an old saying that a friend of mine, Ari Meisel, says, get going, then get good. And you look at the path that we had and you go, oh my God, you know, I fell on my face there. I stumbled into this. And how many entrepreneurs, like the pair of us, can sit here and go, my God, how did I get in the room with the Pope? I can't even remember. But the thing is, we didn't allow the stumble. This is key. If anyone's listening to this, make a note of this, and then you can bugger off and walk the dog or whatever. But listen to this, okay? When we stumble on something or when we fall on our face, the real deciding and dividing factor between the achievers and the non-achievers, if we could be that arrogant, is that we look at what went wrong as education.
Yeah.
And the second we translate it and transform it into education, it becomes a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so me and you, we have PhDs, we have masters, we should
and calluses.
Doctors. We have the scars. We've been screwed over, laughed at, ripped off. That's what makes an entrepreneur. But I think to go back to your question, how did I start? The same as everyone else, I was pissed off. Every entrepreneur in the planet is aggravated. I remember speaking to Elon Musk, and he said that he was aggravated why it took 5 days for you to transfer money from one US bank to another when it was literally just computer code that was doing the transfer. You weren't holding the money. The bank already had it. And actually banks don't. It has it in clearing houses. So, you know, why did it take 5 days? He was aggravated and he created PayPal. He was aggravated the way we didn't have a clearer footprint with cars. He invented Tesla, solar panels, space. He was aggravated into making movement. And has he made mistakes?
Of course.
Millions. Has he therefore become greatly more educated than more people? Yes. And that's the big thing. I grew up East London. I didn't have Instagram to tell me how inadequate my life was. I was a bricklayer, but deep down in my gut, something wasn't right. And I kept on going, surely there's something else out there. And being Irish and living in East London, which, you know, is a double whammy of cockiness and problems, I wanted to go up to a rich person and go, hey, fella, how come you're rich and I'm not? Because you just told us about your building life, okay? How many days, and you probably cannot accurately tell me because you just did it, which is another trait of entrepreneurs. We don't whine, we do. But how many times do you remember we would get up at like 4:30 in the morning to get on the road to get to a job? It would be raining. We would smack our hand, we'd poke ourselves in the eye, we'd walk into a piece of scaffolding and bruise our skull. We'd go home, wet, shit on and tired, and go to bed at 8 o'clock, too tired to go out, and then wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do it again.
And not complain a bit in the world.
Who's going to listen? Who's going to care?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So we did that. So we didn't have the issue of working hard because we knew about that, but we were working poor. And I remember I wanted to ask rich people, how come you were poor and I wasn't? Because again, I would work 27 hours in a day. So I started off going up to rich people in bars, in hotels, and I'm 240 pound of ugly biker. So I'm not exactly inviting when I walk up. The pair of you, me and you, we're both good looking.
They just hand you your wallet? They just hand you their wallet?
Yeah, there's my car. There's my wife. Just take them. But I would go up to people and I would strike up a conversation. And in my Irish naivety, I would say, hey, you're success. How come you're rich and I'm not? And then I would shut up for the answer. Now, I ended up working as a doorman of a nightclub, which actually was a decline in my career. Because any bricklayer, any laborer, any painter, any electrician, those are skilled professionals. Hey, be proud about them. But working on a nightclub door where your job description is just to punch someone is not the highlight of your career. But I use that as my jumping point to get to know rich people and to get them into other parties that they didn't either know about or hadn't been invited to. And the level of party never stopped. I went from getting people into opening to new nightclubs to unveilings of new Ferraris, to the launching of new yachts and penthouses, to ending up working for everyone from the Grammys, Kentucky Derby, Sir Elton John's Oscar party, Formula One. I just never stopped. But here was the dumb thing. That career was a Trojan horse to get me in the room of affluent, successful people and go, hey, I've got to ask you, how come you got where you were? Now, my questions got refined and better over the years, but they did start off quite rudely with, hey, how come you're rich and I'm not? Until I learned that money wasn't what made you rich.
That's right.
Wealth, affluence, success, they did. And the byproduct of those things was the checkbook.
That's right.
And so that's what I learned, all of these things along the way. But as you say, people used to look at me as just a fixer. I was like the nicer version of Ray Donovan until you didn't pay my bill, and then I was Ray Donovan. But I was the fixer. I was the man that can. And then along came one day in the late 90s, and they went, oh, you're like a concierge to the stars. And bang, I launched the concierge industry. And as you know, a few years later, wrote a book about what I got up to, and it kind of jettisoned me into a different chapter.
Well, it's well-deserved chapter. You know, one of the things that sticks out, I've always said that there are really two things that hold entrepreneurs back from being entrepreneurs or vice versa, and that's knowledge and effort. right? If I could learn to think like that, Steve Meyer, my guy that taught me, that got me, that literally believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, right? He told me a long time ago, it's the way people think. And now you just articulated the exact same journey, right? It's just getting to that place where you learn to think differently. You know, we talked about COVID earlier. For me, COVID ended up becoming a blessing rather than a curse, because experience had taught me not to ride the ride of, okay, the market's going crazy, everybody's making money, let's buy, 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 buy. You know, it taught me that, you know, there's always a bear behind the bull, and the bear's always trying to bite the bull's ass. And you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy that even come to foot. What I want to talk about now is, if it's cool with you, is this, I'm dealing with it now. So my kids are technically part of the lower end of the millennials. Okay. And they, at least now, granted, these are my kids. If they live with me, they watch me get up at 5 o'clock every morning and go to work. Even now, right? They watch it every day. Okay. Well, I say they watch it. They know I do it. Then they wake up. Right. But part of it is they expect this microwave sense of success rather than the consistent effort behind creating what we would describe as freedom, which equates to success. Right. What do you see as the number one factor in destroying laziness?
Education.
Yeah.
Okay. You see, the trouble is the media likes to populate two things. It likes to populate pain, and it likes to populate get rich quick. Okay. Those are the two things that we're constantly bombarded with. This guy plays video games and earns $1 million from doing it. So every twat in their cupboard is going, oh, if I play video games every day, I'm going to make $1 million. Yet they don't realize it was a marketing ploy behind the whatever the bloody Fortnite or the program was.
Yeah.
When my kids grew up, and I've got 3 kids, and I've been able to pull off some remarkable experiences, and I've got into remarkable relationships, but there's nothing harder than what we do and trying to translate it to your kids who, for 5 hours a day, are being taught the opposite of what you do. You see, they go to school at 8:30 in the morning, and they're taught to be good enough to work for someone else.
Yeah.
These are the answers. These are the books you read. These are the opinions of great men. So listen to them because they're right. And then here's a test to prove that you've memorized somebody else's information so that you can take orders in the future.
Yeah.
Now, as an entrepreneur, especially people like Elon Musk, when they're given the choice of 2 answers, the first thing they do is go, why is there a problem there in the first place?
Ooh, that's good right there.
They do that. They actually, I've been in a room before where someone's actually asked him, you know, oh, we should do this. And he's gone, well, hang on, before we focus on greasing the wheel, we've got to understand, why do we use the wheelbarrow? That was his terminology.
Wow.
And you know, the funny thing is, they removed that element away from the machinery factory. Now, bearing in mind, he built Tesla cars because a combustion engine was built on friction, and anything that's built on friction wears down, corrodes, and breaks.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. That's why it's called friction. Okay. And so what he did was, the way to make something not have spark plugs, fuel, problems with wear, was to remove that element. And he did. He built an electric engine purely and simply to remove the pain and the process of the future. That's the situation that us as entrepreneurs, that's how we think. So the kids are thinking a different way. So the first thing I did was I got my kids into child labor. And I love that. That's the whole point of having kids. If you can't use them for free stuff, what's the point of them? So I would have them do things like, hey, get that book and break it down into 4 chapters. And I want a paragraph on each chapter for a newsletter I'm going to send out. Oh, I want you to sign this. I want you to go and do this. I want you to set this up. Give them tasks with as little information and reason behind them. Because here's the thing. You can guide and dictate anyone. But do you know what that's called? That's called a transaction. You see, I can pick up my phone now and I can go, Siri, turn the lights on, turn the air conditioner on, open my garage door. Does that mean I'm getting into a relationship with Siri?
I kind of hope not.
No, exactly. Well, that's for a different matter. But the thing is, I want my kids to do what Siri doesn't do. And what Siri doesn't do is think. I want problem solvers.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want problems. I want problem solvers. So what I do is I go, hey, I need this done, get it done. And I go, well, how do I do that? Figure it out. Now, if you want to go online and Google how to do it, that's intelligence. You're looking for a source of that information. If you want to try it and fail, what do you get? Knowledge. And what is combined knowledge? Experience.
Yes.
And experience is credibility.
Yep.
That's what you've got to do. So the bottom line of it is, my kids would go to school, they would come home, I'm in the garage, ripping the transmission down on a motorcycle with my headset in, talking to a client in Australia about a $4 million deal that I'm going to make 25% profit on. And then the following day, I've got the winder. And they're like, hang on, Dad never went to college. Dad never finished school.
Yep.
Dad's not wearing a suit, Dad can't even spell, but he's released a book. How? And what they're doing is they're getting hung up on the fundamentals. They're getting hung up on the obstacles. And what you asked earlier was, what does entrepreneurs, how do they differ from entrepreneurs? We don't see the obstacles. We go through them. I can't spell, get a ghostwriter. I can't do this, find someone that can. I know what my end goal is.
Yeah.
Everything in the middle is just a process on how to get my end goal done.
Yeah. I mean, it's a chess game.
100%.
It's a chess game. You're moving this over here, moving that over here, moving this over here, a new relationship here, a relationship that doesn't work, that's not serving anybody anymore, that's like toxic, moving that one out. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I think you and I literally are brothers from another mother, man. Backstory and the whole deal.
On that note there, and I don't want to interrupt because you're so accurate there, but isn't that strange how that's the case for everyone? You see, we're entrepreneurs. We will go into, and I ask everyone that's listening to this podcast to think about this. When was the last time you were in a bar, a restaurant, a pub, having a barbecue with your neighbors, and you started to talk about something that you were working on or wanting to get into or that interested you, and you had to dumb it down for fear of ridicule or them not understanding?
All the time.
Why? Because as entrepreneurs, we spend most of our life realizing and feeling like we don't fit in until we get onto a call like this. And then we realized we were never designed to.
That's correct. Yes.
And that's what when I throw private events called speakeasies, but any good entrepreneurial event you go into, you'll end up having a conversation with a 16-year-old girl or a 90-year-old guy or a 50-year-old guy or girl, but regardless of the age, regardless of the country, regardless of the background, you're united as creative disruptors and entrepreneurs. And that's why the story that I'm going to give, the story you're going to give, it's the same for every single entrepreneur. And that's why we resonate so well with other entrepreneurs and not entrepreneurs. We can see through those as people with like a yellow aura that we can go, there's another one that's going to the club. Let's get him out the back door and duff him up.
Yeah. Well, the crazy part is, I love the fact we're ping ponging a little bit because there's so much truth that's coming out. I hope everybody's really taking notes. The other thing we kind of touched on loosely, but I want to do a deep dive on is the spirit of authenticity, because I find that people will spend so much time trying to be somebody else, they never actually discover who they really are to begin with. And your entire career is just based on being you. Did you ever have I'm serious. Did you ever have the challenge where you wanted or considered like be trying to compromise and compromise your values, your beliefs and stuff like that? I mean, literally, you're the only guy that I know on the planet that can get Andrea Bocelli on credit for a minute. Right. So.
Yeah, that did happen. You actually bring up probably one of my darkest moments of my life. You see, I spent so much time in my early years trying to get to the source of the information. I didn't take the privilege to focus on branding myself. Yeah. And today, everyone's trying to create a brand and an identity without realizing they already have one. And understand this. But now I own a marketing company. And I tell people, understand this, branding is not about a pretty website. It's
Yeah.
not about a ClickFunnels campaign. It's about what people say about you and your product when you've left the room.
Yep.
If you sell shoes in 12 different colors, yet the entire conversation is about the yellow shoes that you sell, that's your brand. You're a yellow shoe salesman. Mm-hmm. So you don't have a lot of ability to brand, but most people confuse. Now, I never confused anyone because I was this guy. I ride motorcycles. I don't have a car, always been that way. I will turn up on a motorcycle, leather jacket, put my crash helmet down on your desk and go, right, Stephen, what do we need to do? Mm-hmm. And I focus at your problem. And the beautiful thing is when you're focused on someone's problem, they don't care about the other stuff. Yeah. They just care about, do you care how ugly your doctor is when they're saving you from the pain you're in? Do you care how pretty the bottle of headache tablets that you got out of your cabinet at 2 o'clock in the morning is when you're trying to get rid of a headache? Mm-hmm. Do you care what your rat deterrent guy looks like when he's getting rid of your rat problem in your cellar? Mm-hmm. Nobody cares when your problem's removed.
That's right.
Now, I had that ignorance to that until 1997. Mm. And in 1996, I started working with Ferrari, Formula One team. And in 1997, I had woke up one day and went, hang on a minute. I work with one of the largest brands in the planet in terms of automotive history, culture, cult, luxury. And I'm riding around on a motorcycle in a black t-shirt. So I went out and I got a watch. It was an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. I got tailor-made suits. I got like 3 or 4 tailor-made suits. And I went and bought a vintage Ferrari. Mm. And I realized this was for you.
Yeah.
I wasn't comfortable in that. The car's beautiful, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I like being on 2 wheels. Mm-hmm. And I'm now wearing a suit, and I felt as though it was a suit of armor. I was now constricted. The funny thing is, I went to this party in Monaco, and I wrote about this in the book. And I took photographs of me. This was 1997. It was the 50th anniversary of Ferrari, and everyone on board this yacht ranged from royalty, kings, queens, to icons. Wow. We had Hugh Grant and Liz Hurley, who were at the time were the biggest names.
Yeah.
I was at the bar with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone talking about the movies that they were doing. Yeah. We had Prince Albert in there. We had princes from the Middle East. We had the Sultan of Brunei on there. We had all of these people on there. We had loads of photographs taken. And about 3 weeks later, when I got those photographs, I noticed one glaring fact. I wasn't in any of them. Mm. My persona was this guy trying to look good in a tailor-made suit but not me. My posture was different. My style was put on. My smile was artificial because I was having to work the event and therefore didn't actually go there. We often say in my family that was the greatest party that I actually didn't go to. Now, I've been to events now, and there's I won't say famous, but there was a picture of me, because I was working with Elton John for about 8 years, of me wearing a tuxedo. Mm. And someone would say, well, that's very constrictive. Vans did a leather pair of Vans for me.
Did they really?
I've got,
it's awesome.
In the picture, there's me with Sir Elton John in a black tuxedo with a leather pair of Vans, okay? Yeah. I was me, and I didn't care. You see, that's the point. For you to care about someone so much that you're going to sell yourself, that's an invoice that you shouldn't be paying.
Yeah.
So I literally, when I saw those pictures that day, I hocked the watch, I sold the car, I put all the suits into the cupboard, great suits, you couldn't really get rid of them. I was going to wear them again, but never did. And I got back to 2 wheels, and I decided that I'm going to show up 100% unapologetically as me. But you know why? And here's a key factor. The reason I am always me is because it takes, big statement here, get ready to write this down, it takes zero effort. It takes zero effort to be you. Therefore, you've now got 100% that you can dedicate to the problem of your client, you know, your prospect, whoever you're working with. But don't ever waste or spend any time on you. Just be you.
Yeah. Well, as you're doing that, how do you differentiate between maturing the real you and not becoming a fake you? You know what I'm
I think
saying?
the maturity really comes down to that experience.
Yeah.
It's the fact that, you know, they always say experience comes 3 seconds after you needed it most. Um,
So true.
it's the fact that I have failed. The reason I'm here,
Mhm.
able to have this conversation with you, able to name drop a billion people that will make you puke, is because I failed at doing it so many times before I managed to do it.
Yeah.
And I constantly failed. I remember I was with Jean-Paul Dejourier, the founder of Paul Mitchell, and we walked into a party together and he looked around and he went, excellent, it's a room full of failures.
Yeah.
And Richard Branson was in the room as well. And I thought to myself, that's kind of rude. You've just called everyone in this room, and there were Silicon Valley venture capitalists, and there were some very powerful people. I think Tony Robbins was in the room as well.
Yeah.
And he's just gone, room full of failures. And I looked, and he caught my mood swing, and he went, no, you're missing the point. Failure creates education. Education creates experience. Experience creates credibility. This is the room you want to be in.
Yeah.
You want to be in a room full of failures.
Yeah.
And he redefined it for me. And I went, I understand now. I understand. So I think
like, let me fail more. Let me fail more. Yeah.
And isn't that the defining factor? If I don't fail in the next month, if I haven't failed a good few times, then I've stopped trying.
Yeah.
And when you stop, you die.
That's right.
You know, anything that stops becomes stagnant, becomes smelly, and dies. I don't want to be smelly and dying. So I want to try things that make me fail. But it's the maturity aspect comes in the acknowledgement of those failures and how it will refine you and not define you. And then the maturity to be able to take the lessons and scars that you got and to be able to transplant them into your kids, into your coaching clients, into the attendees and audience when you're doing a speaking gig. The maturity is how you use that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's if just being straight up being honest. That experience, those failures, those struggles, those adversities, those obstacles that we either went under, around, through, over. I mean, we just all of that ended up becoming a national live event, right? It's, you know, it became a curriculum, right? Because, you know, I'm a big believer that the purpose in life is to actually, and this is my truth. The greatest purpose in life is serving the person that you used to be. Well, the person that I used to be was broke and broken, right? In a lot of different facets. And, you know, as I'm looking at that, you know, it also gives me the sense of always wanting to give someone else the second chance that I got. And I know you have the same spirit of second chance in you because you've traveled and spoken in prisons and all kinds of stuff, trying to help inmates become better human beings, including ones that aren't actually getting out. How did you find yourself there?
Oh God. I think they helped me more than I helped them, actually, to be honest with you. There was a program being tested in a level 4 maximum security jail. Level 4 is where the kingpins go. You don't end up in a level 4 prison for parking tickets, you know? And someone said to me, they're testing this program. They want to bring some entrepreneurs in. These people know how to hustle. They know how to do things, even though they've done them wrong. They've got drive. Can we possibly translate any of that drive into good, productive businesses? Would you be willing to be part of this program? So I thought to myself, well, everyone knows I like to take risks. Everyone knows that I like to try things that make me uncomfortable because that's your greatest growth. Me going to prison as a day would give me a cool cocktail story. It would be funny. It would add to my street cred, you know, all this kind of thing. So I went and I started off basically being petrified because they take you into the prison and it's door after door after door being shut behind you. We had armed guards all around us. There were signs on the wall saying there are no warning shots. We are then marched, even though we're the entrepreneurs there to help, we are marched through the yard. And the police turrets all around with the guns trained, gas canister disposal, not rockets, but like tubes that they could drop these gas things into the thing. Everything's there. And then they walk us into this gymnasium where everything's nailed down to the floor. Anything you say echoes. And I think there was like 30 or 40 inmates in there that were excited to see people that were going to help them change. And their excitement suddenly got them roaring. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then very quickly, I found people that in their darkest moments acknowledged that they had done wrong, accepted it, wasn't seeking approval, wasn't seeking forgiveness, but wasn't going to allow what they had done to define who they are. And they wanted to do better. And they wanted to educate people that were in as much pain as they were in, not to make the decisions that they had made that got them where they are. They wanted to help their problems, as you were saying.
And gave their suffering meaning.
I was in there from 9 o'clock in the morning till I think 3:30 in the afternoon. And I came out of that prison. The sky had never been bluer. The grass had never been greener. My food had never tasted so good. And I realized that day how wealthy I was. I was the wealthiest man on the planet. I went home to people that loved me and trusted and respected me. I had friends. There were a few that I suddenly realized, no, you're not the people I want to be in. And so I went to the charity that were putting this event on. And I said, this was so powerful on me. And they were like, oh, you can't believe how powerful it was on the inmates. And I was like, well, yes, but selfishly, look at what I got out of it. I've got to go back. And they were like, well, we've got permission. And they said, could you donate $100, towards this? We'd like everyone to donate. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not donating for this. I'm going to charge. And they were like, what? I said, I'm going to charge people $500 for the privilege of getting petrified, scared shitless, getting uncomfortable, and then the devastating realization of how wealthy they actually are. I'm going to charge $500 a person.
Wow.
How many people can we take in there? And they were like, well, we can only take 20 people in. We took 36 people in. 36 entrepreneurs. Now, here's the thing. Tim Ferriss, Cameron Howard, Ari Meisel, Jason Gaynor, people that you would spend thousands of dollars have been in that prison with me.
Wow.
Okay? You would have spent thousands of dollars per ticket to have watched them speak at the stage. And every single one of them was paying for the privilege to go in. And so I did that. And I just realized not only how much of it changed me, how much the people inside was changing me. Because if you can be positive inside when you've got a 105-year term, how can I be at home getting pissed off about the ROI on my Facebook ads? What right do I have to be pissed off that the Chinese takeaway happens to be closed on a Monday night and I can't get my chow mein? It changes your perspective. I've been doing it for 3 years now. And I go in 3 times a year. I charge people. They don't pay me. They pay the charity direct. They pay $500 per person for the privilege to go into jail and to change themselves.
Wow. Now, are you doing that in the UK or in the States?
That's in the States. That's in Kern, is north of Los Angeles. And it's got some colorful characters in there. I'll say that. But if there's anyone out there in the UK that works for any of the prison groups that would like to discuss that with me, you can get me at steve@stevedsims.com. Let me know. We can discuss the program that we do here in America. We work through Defy Ventures on that program. And I have zero issue about traveling from LA to the UK and actually going in there with a group. I would do that. Best things that ever happened to me.
Man, if you ever need a brother in arms to go to either one of those, you let me know. I'm glad to do it. I was just thinking, that, I was talking to Marissa Peers, it's probably been 6 months ago. And she found out about my homeless story, right? So, obviously LA is loaded with a huge, I mean, the largest largest homeless population on the planet that I'm aware of.
Yes.
And,
And it's growing.
yeah, and it's growing. I was brainstorming with her. I said, there's got to be a way that people like myself who have been homeless and who've managed to restabilize and even grow in our own lives to go in there and do some good. I mean, how hard can it be to set up a stage and a PA and just talk to the people? You know what I'm saying?
There's a guy over here called Dan Fleischman. I don't know. Have you come across Dan Fleischman?
Not yet. No.
No. So Dan Fleischman's probably, I'm pretty connected. Okay. But this guy takes connection to a whole new level. He's the guy behind everyone. He does all the social work, not social work as in goodwill.
Yeah.
He does all the social profiles and postings and distribution for everyone from Logan Paul and Jake Paul, the Kardashians, Mark Wahlberg.
Oh my
God. He is one of the most connected men in the planet.
Yeah.
And Dan Fleischman, respectfully, looks like a bum most of the time. Dan, I love you. You know I do. But he runs a backpack charity where he literally goes down to Skid Row and hands out backpacks with cleaning towels, clean underwear, clean socks, just the basic fundamentals, and gives out these backpacks. It is insane.
Well, I'd love to, when you guys get ready to do something like that again, please pick up the phone. I'd love to do it. I might go out to LA in July or September this year.
Right.
And that's just, it's getting heavier and heavier on my heart because, we've talked about this kind of throughout the whole show, but it's like people are living less than their best life simply because they don't know any better.
So there's a friend of mine, Joe Polish, that upset me once. He came up to me because I was deliberating on whether or not to try something. And he said to me, you know the definition of hell, Steve? And of course, I had a cocky answer. And he said, it's to meet the man or woman you could have been.
Dang.
I was like, shit. So I want to be that person. Yeah. So I try everything I possibly can.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I'm a big so I'm trying not to talk in fortune cookie. I'm doing my best, absolute best. I'm having all kinds of little brainstorms over here. I got my little notepad over here full of, been jotting stuff down the entire time. One of the things the audience has heard me say that I think that I learned from Steve Myrick and many of the mentors along the way is this importance of creating a legacy that outlives you, right? Otherwise, what's it all for? Like your entire existence on the planet, if it's wrapped around cars and houses and fame, but yet after 2 or 3 years after you pass, there's like no trace of you, right? Meanwhile, if you're focused on creating a legacy that outlives you, then essentially what happens is now that legacy's in your kids, that legacy's in your grandkids, that legacy's in the community, that legacy's in the marketplace, that legacy's all over the place. What legacy do you want to leave behind?
You've explained that very, very well. When someone asked me many years ago, what legacy do I want to leave behind? My answer was none. Because I had looked at legacy as a business. What business did I want to leave behind? None. My business and me, we are one of the same things. When I'm done, it's done. But I realized legacy is not a business. It's not like you own Amazon and it survives after you. It's the impact that you generate. It's the trigger you generate. If I die and someone a year, 2 years, 3 years from now says, hey, I hear about this program where I can actually challenge me to become better. There was this guy, Steve Sims, who used to do that. There's my legacy.
Yeah.
If I can get people to do, act, and react differently by anything that I've said now or that I will say in the future, however inappropriate it may appear or be, that's my legacy. So I realized then I want people to dare to do something different.
Yeah.
And that's my legacy.
I love it, man. I love it. One final question, if you give me a couple more minutes, man. I love talking to you, dude. We could do this for days and weeks. When it comes down to it, you've had a lot of incredibly affluent people come across your doorstep wanting different, one-of-a-kind experiences and adventures and travel and all kinds of stuff. Have you ever had a client, and maybe the answer is all of them, right? Based on what you do, but have you ever had a client come in with one expectation, meaning they came in for this reason, but they left with a life change? They left with a brand new perspective.
Everyone. And the reason why, and again, write this down, folks, never give a client what they ask for. Give them what they lust, desire, and dream of. And those are two different things. We are in a transactional world. We brought it up earlier about Siri, Alexa, Amazon. We are so used to barking orders, okay? What you want to do is when a client barks an order at you and says, hey, I want to be coached because I want to hit $1 million.
Yeah.
Don't coach him to meet $1 million. Ask him, first of all, why $1 million? Why me as the coach? And why you as the student? And why now? Challenge the question to find the reason and then go for that. You don't want $1 million because you think it's going to give you stability. Stability could be $733,000. It may be $1.2 million. But people get fixated on things, and then quite often it's not what they really want. It's just what they feel is either achievable or sounds good as a goal. Yeah. So every single person in my, you brought up Bocelli. I had a client, and all he asked me for was the ultimate dining experience in Florence. That's all he asked for. I actually took over an entire museum, the Galleria dell'Accademia in Florence, that houses Michelangelo's David. Yeah. And at 9 o'clock at night, set a table of 6 up so that he could have pasta at the feet of the iconic David statue. And then halfway through his pasta, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade him. So that's what I did to recreate or to create the world's ultimate. You can't beat that.
No, it's a one-of-a-kind.
Going to come in and deliver you dessert. You're done. So I think I achieved it. But he didn't ask for that. So I have him as a client because I do what he doesn't dare do. Yeah. I dream and disrupt and deliver. Yeah. So that's what you got to do for your clients.
Well, obviously, we've got a select few that are at the level that are at the affluent level. But for those that are at the affluent level, talk about the partnerships that you guys offer.
So we do a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm not here to pitch anything. Well, you can go to Steve D. Sims, SIMS.com, SteveDSims.com. You can find my Instagram, YouTube. I'm the same name everywhere. Which for a start,
guy on and off camera, by the way.
How many people are not? You know, how many people are like Richard Percy 123 here, or Richard T. Percy? So sort your freaking URLs out for a start, folks. But I'm Steve D. Sims everywhere. I do coaching. The Bluefishing, the Art of Making Things Happen is the book that we mentioned a few times. But I'm there to really challenge anyone. So if you're a young entrepreneur, a new entrepreneur, want to find out if you're an entrepreneur, then we can help you to discover that. If you've got an established business, we can coach you to scale that business. So we're here to disrupt the way you do things. And if you're not ready to become uncomfortable and disruptive, you really don't reach out to me.
All right, bonus question. I can't help myself. Bonus question. When it comes down to it, okay, and you're going through this this cycle, and you're trying to discover like how to go to the next level in general, what is the number one thing you have to overcome?
Focused on the solution you provide.
Yeah.
Everything else goes away. If you've got a shitty website, but you deliver an amazing solution, you've still got business. If you've got a phenomenal website, but you don't know what you're solving, you're still broke.
That's so true. That is so true. Oh my gosh. Well, dude, I love having you, man. We got to do this again. You're welcome on this show anytime you want to come on.
Thanks,
and yeah, we can keep going for days, man. One more time, how can people stay connected with you? One more time.
You can follow me on Instagram, subscribe to me, whatever. Steve D. Sims, SIMS.com, or Steve D. Sims anywhere. But Instagram's probably my biggest stuff I post in.
Rock on. Well, thank you so much again, man. Take care.
Thank you.
If you love that interview, go ahead and check out this next one right here.
And that's why I'm such a great advocate for just sports in general. No one is good at the beginning. Yeah. No one. You have to work. You lose first and then you win.